I'm Sam here at Rick Jones Pianos with a Steinway Model M, originally built in 1926 in New York City, and which we have completely rebuilt. It has a new case finish. The case finish is satin ebony, done by my colleague Jose in our shop here. The plate's been refinished, the soundboard's been repaired and refinished. New strings, tuning pins, and a pin block have been installed, along with a new action, including obel hammers, which are made in Germany. I think quite highly of them. They are very high quality hammers, and I happen to have obel hammers in my piano at home, and it sounds wonderful. And we don't always use obel parts in our Steinway pianos. Oftentimes we use American-made parts like Ronson, but we like to have some variety in our inventory. And the German hammers tend to have a brighter sound. That is how piano hammers are made in Germany. Obel is not as bright as Renner, which is the other main German piano hammer maker supplier. Also excellent quality. We don't, at least in my opinion, we don't normally find Renner in American Steinways to be quite as suitable because that tends to be a little too bright. This one worked out to be sort of in the middle between mellow and bright, with I would say exceptionally wide dynamic range. As I said, it's a Model M. It's only 5'7" long, but when you listen to it, it sounds a lot larger than it looks. That is in large part because of Steinway's design. So that the whole scale design, by which I mean the shape of the case, soundboard, bridges, the cast iron plate, and how that all determines the positions of the strings. That all determines the essential tone quality of the piano, along with the quality of the materials used, which for Steinway was top quality. And Steinway grands of each size that they've made, ranging from the baby grand Model S 5.1 to the 9-foot concert grand Model D, they all sound bigger than you would expect a piano of that size to sound. That is one thing that has earned Steinway such a stellar reputation for well over 100 years now. They're known for tonal projection, and that's how they won over people's hearts in the concert halls and also in their homes for more small pianos. And the historical note behind that, the M, as I understand, originally stood for miniature, because at the time this piano first came out, and incidentally, when this piano was made in the 1920s, it was the smallest grand piano that they made. The Model S didn't come out until 1935. Well, many piano manufacturers struggled at the time to make and to design and make a small piano under 6 feet sound good. It was notably the transition between the higher notes from the lower notes into the bass that was oftentimes very rough, and you could tell there was a big change in sound quality from one part to the other. That is not a problem on Steinways. They are famous for having smoothed that transition, along with every other transition to different parts of the keyboard, to get a very even, smooth transition throughout the keyboard of tone quality. That's one of the ways in which Steinway made themselves famous. And at the time this piano was made, it was considered quite the achievement to be able to do that in such a small piano. Because I've seen other smaller grands made in around that time. They don't sound nearly as refined. They have the same sort of, in my opinion, quintessentially American tone quality, but not to the refinement that Steinway is able to achieve. And that's why this is one of the few brands of piano of this age, 100 years ago, that is worth rebuilding, in our opinion. And we think the public agrees. Certainly there are many people looking for, especially the 1920s in particular, in Steinways. It's considered a golden age, and with good reason. About this piano in particular, I will call the tone a 5 on a scale from 1 to 10, from mellow to bright. As I mentioned, it has a wide range musically and a tremendously deep bass. Just depending on how you play it, though, you can get a bolder sound out of it if you want, or a much more intimate, delicate, warm, soft sound. And when the piano has such range like that, I usually give it a tone rating of a 5 on a scale from 1 to 10, right in the middle. The touch, I've played a lot of Steinways from the 20s. In my opinion, this is maybe firmer than the average Steinway from that time, which makes it maybe more similar to more modern Steinways. It's changed a bit over the years, how Steinway's keyboard, how the touch feels over the years, and in my opinion, more often in the early 20th century, they were light, and in the second half of the 20th century to the present day, they tend to be more firm. And I know those who are students or teachers who are used to a more modern Steinway, such as what many schools have, you will perhaps prefer the somewhat firmer touch because of the control it gives you, especially over soft playing. This piano, I think, will deliver that to you, even though it's one of the older models from the 20s, back when pianos in general weren't that firm. The average piano I've played from that time period didn't have as much of a firm touch, but they all turn out differently. The leverage turns out very slightly differently from piano to piano, especially on the Steinway, where there's so much hand craftsmanship involved in the making of the piano. They all turn out a little different from each other. One of the differences that happens is how hard the keys feel, and I think this is a little bit on the firm side. So a 6 it is on the scale from 1 to 10 for the touch from light to firm. And I think it compares very favorably to more modern Steinways. So as I said, if you're a student or teacher who has to be used to that, and you want to practice on the piano at home that makes you used to that feel so you're prepared at school, I think you'll be in good, your hands will be in good hands with this piano. So, a few more things I can say. This piano has, I forgot to mention earlier, it has the nickel hardware that was typical of Steinways from this time period, and I think maybe Mason and Hamlin too, from Boston. Not many manufacturers used that. It was more of a premium design aesthetic, and I mean, it doesn't affect the sound at all, but it is a nice difference in the appearance of the piano that makes it striking. We've polished it, and we've had the pedals replated with nickel, so it has that silvery look rather than the brass yellow color, golden color that is much more common in pianos. I believe it was standard fare on Steinway pianos until right around 1929, 1930, when they switched to all brass and only did nickel on special order. So this would have been one of the last that they made during that time period that was default with nickel hardware. A nice aesthetic touch. Well, I can mention that a current day Model M, well, it's still made in New York. Steinway still makes it to an exceptionally high quality standard. And the MSRP on the new Model M, and I should note it's the same design. They haven't had to change the scale design since 1917. It's been the same. They came up with the design, they nailed it from the beginning, and there was no reason to change it. It was an instant classic. So the modern, current, new Steinway M is the same model as this, same design, and it'll be noted that it lists new MSRP for $98,700. We challenge you to go play a new one, see how nice it is for yourself, and then come and play this piano with all its new parts. It's a 100-year-old piano, yes, but it's made of exceptionally good materials, as Steinway is known for, and we've taken great care in our restoration to bring it back to a like-new condition and to reproduce the sound that we think is faithful for Steinway of that time period. The way the strings are, well, we use the same strings. Mapes, they're the supplier of the strings for Steinway to this day, and back then, incidentally. We also have the correct gauges. We follow Steinway's instructions there so that doesn't change the sound of the piano. It has the authentically Steinway sound, in my opinion, and we challenge you to go see for yourself whether the new one sounds and feels and looks over 3 times better than this piano for what we have it priced at. You're welcome to make your own conclusions about that, but suffice it to say, I think you'll be quite impressed with this piano. And I should mention that our piano has not only the 10-year warranty, all parts and labor, like everything else we sell, which, as I understand, is twice the duration of a Steinway warranty. They have only had a 5-year warranty for quite some time now. We offer what you'll never find with a dealer of new pianos. It is our 100% lifetime trade-up guarantee. We ask, of course, that you make sure, please, to have this tuned twice a year by a professional technician, and that you keep it in an environment of moderate and stable humidity. If you do that, you can return to us at any point in the future and trade this piano in precisely for its instrument sales price. And that applies to anything else we sell if you should choose a different piano, whatever that price is. That's what we mean by 100%. It remains, that's the trade-in value. Not that there would be a whole lot of pianos you would want to trade up to after this piano, although it does occasionally happen. We'll get a Steinway M in on trade, even the rebuilt one, for someone who just has to have a bigger piano, like a Steinway B, 7-foot Steinway, or another premium piano. It does happen. But rest assured, with all the work we've done to this piano to renew it and give it another lifetime of musical enjoyment, you, I don't think, will have to worry about having this piano replaced anytime soon, so long as you take good care of it. Steinways are American treasures. They're certainly worth restoring, and we expect this piano will continue to be worthy of being restored when we're all long gone and even our children are all long gone. A piano that's worthy of being renewed for many, many years to come. And as I mentioned, if you take good care of it, you can really extend that lifetime with these parts many decades into the future and enjoy it in the meantime, and we hope you do. So please stop by, try it out for yourself. You can play it along with anything else in our inventory, but if you can't make it, you can always give us a phone call or send us an email if you have any questions. Thanks.